Before we enter this story, pause for a moment and ask yourself a simple but uncomfortable question. If God placed a miracle directly in front of your eyes, would you submit or would you demand control over it? Because this episode is not just about a she-camel. It is about the eternal war between faith and arrogance. And before the story unfolds, let us begin where all truth begins. With the 3 heavenly books. The Torah speaks of nations destroyed not because of weakness but because of pride. It warns again and again that signs from God are tests, not toys. A sign accepted with humility becomes guidance. A sign challenged with arrogance becomes destruction. The Bible echoes the same law. Jesus reminds that signs are given to soften hearts, not to entertain egos. Those who demand miracles to dominate them, not to follow them, seal their own fate. And the Quran speaks with unmistakable clarity. In Surah Ash-Shams and Surah Hud, the people of Thamud are mentioned as a nation that was given a living miracle. Not a vision, not a dream, but a breathing, walking sign of God. And they failed. This is the trial of the she-camel. And this is the story of how arrogance strangled faith. But before we go deeper, a small, friendly reminder from the heart. If stories that reveal hidden truths of faith, power, and divine justice resonate with you, stay with Son of Adam, subscribe, and walk this journey with us. Not for numbers, but for meaning. Now let us travel back in time, long before empires, before machines, before skyscrapers. There lived a people carved from stone. They were called Thamud. Their cities were not built. They were sculpted. Mountains were not obstacles to them. Mountains were their homes. They carved palaces into cliffs. They hollowed valleys into fortresses. They believed their strength made them untouchable. And when power stays too long in human hands, it slowly replaces God. Thamud did not deny God openly. They acknowledged him, but they believed they were his equals. And this is where every fallen civilization begins. Into this world was sent a man, not a king, not a warrior, not a magician, a prophet, Salih. He walked among them as one of their own. He spoke their language, he knew their arrogance, and he warned them gently. Worship God alone, abandon oppression, stop measuring truth by power. But Thamud laughed. They pointed to their mountains, their stone cities, their weapons, and they said, "If you are truly sent by God, bring us a sign," not because they wanted guidance, but because they wanted dominance. And here lies the danger. When humans demand miracles on their own terms, they are not seeking truth. They are testing God. Salih warned them, any sign from God will not come for entertainment. It will come as a test. And tests come with responsibility. But arrogance never listens. They gathered their elders, their chiefs, their proud elite, and they issued a challenge. Let a camel emerge from this rock, alive, pregnant, perfect. They did not choose a normal request. They chose an impossible one. And then something happened, something that froze their laughter. From solid stone, from lifeless mountain, the rock cracked, and out stepped a she-camel. Alive, breathing, majestic, not weak, not ordinary, a living miracle. The ground trembled, the people fell silent. This was not illusion, this was not trickery, this was a direct interruption of natural law. God had answered, but miracles do not end trials. They begin them. Salih spoke clearly. This she-camel is from God. She will drink from the water on her day, and you will drink on yours. Do not harm her. Do not touch her, or a painful punishment will seize you. The command was simple. Share water. Respect the sign. But arrogance does not fear God. It fears loss of control. The camel drank deeply, and the wells ran dry on her appointed day. and resentment grew. The elites whispered, "Why should an animal control our resources? Why should we bow to a symbol?" Slowly, faith split the people. Some believed, some feared, some hated, and hatred always finds a weapon. A group conspired, not against Salih, but against the sign itself. Because destroying the sign felt easier than destroying the truth, they slaughtered the she-camel, not in ignorance, but in defiance. And when the blade cut, something far greater was severed. Mercy. Salih's voice echoed one final time. "Enjoy yourselves for 3 days. Then the promise of your Lord will arrive." They mocked him. They trusted their stone houses, their mountains, their power. They forgot one thing. Mountains bow, stone breaks, and power collapses. The sky changed, the earth screamed, and Thamud was erased, not because they lacked evidence, but because they rejected it. And this is where part 1 ends. But the real question now turns toward us. If a living miracle walked among us today, would we submit, or would we demand ownership over it? We go deeper, not into the desert, but into the human mind. Because the real battlefield of the she-camel was not the valley. It was the ego. When the she-camel emerged from the mountain, Thamud had already lost. They just did not know it yet. Why? Because miracles do not convince the arrogant. They threaten them. The people of Thamud did not reject the camel because they doubted it. They rejected it because it removed their control. The camel did not belong to them. They could not command it. They could not exploit it. And for a civilization addicted to dominance, that was unbearable. This is a psychological law repeated throughout history. Pharaoh did not reject Moses because the signs were weak. He rejected them because accepting them meant kneeling. Nimrod did not argue with Abraham because of logic. He argued because submission felt like death. And Thamud, they saw the truth, but truth without humility feels like humiliation. Salih understood this. That is why he did not argue endlessly. He warned, because when arrogance reaches a certain height, words become noise. The camel became a daily reminder. Every step she took crushed their illusion of superiority. Children followed her in awe. The poor felt hope, the weak felt protected, and the elites felt exposed. Notice something important. God's signs often empower the powerless, and threaten those who profit from imbalance. The water-sharing command was not random. It attacked the core of Thamud's arrogance. Resources, control, privilege. 1 day for the camel, 1 day for the people. Equality. And equality is terrifying to those who rule through hierarchy. They could have shared, they could have obeyed, they could have survived, but arrogance always whispers the same poison. Why should we lower ourselves? Slowly, the language changed. At first, they said, "This is strange," then, "This is unfair," then, "This is dangerous," and finally, "This must be destroyed." Pay close attention. This is how societies justify killing truth. They do not deny it immediately. They reframe it. The conspirators were not fools. They knew killing the camel meant crossing a line. That is why they searched for the cruelest among them. The hardest heart. The one who felt pride in defiance. The Quran describes him as the most wretched. Not because he held the knife, but because he enjoyed it. When the camel was slaughtered, it was not an act of anger. It was an act of celebration. They believed they had reclaimed power. But what they actually did was sign their own verdict. Salih did not beg. He did not threaten endlessly. He delivered the final message. 3 days, not as a countdown, but as mercy. 3 days to reflect. 3 days to repent. 3 days to turn back. But arrogance hears mercy as weakness. They mocked him again. They even plotted to kill Salih himself. Because arrogance does not stop at destroying signs. It hunts messengers next. And now the atmosphere changed. The sky grew heavy. The air became thick. Animals sensed it. Children cried without knowing why. On the first day, faces turned pale. On the second, they turned red. On the third, they turned black. Signs within signs. Still, arrogance refused to bow. And then, it came, not as rain, not as fire, but as a scream, a sound so violent it shattered hearts before it shattered stone. The mountains they trusted, the homes they carved, the power they worshipped, all collapsed. Thamud was not defeated by an army. They were erased by consequence. And this brings us to the most uncomfortable truth. God did not destroy Thamud because they asked for a miracle. He destroyed them because they rejected responsibility. Miracles increase accountability. The clearer the sign, the heavier the test. This law did not end with Thamud. Look around today. Truth still walks among us. Justice still demands space. Faith still challenges arrogance. And humanity still responds the same way. We celebrate technology, power, control. We carve digital mountains, economic fortresses, weapons of dominance. And when faith asks us to share, to restrain, to submit, we ask, why should we? The she-camel is gone. But her trial remains. Every command that limits ego. Every truth that challenges dominance. Every reminder that power is borrowed. Is today's she-camel. And the question is no longer about Thamud. It is about us. In part 2, we saw how arrogance tightens its grip. How truth becomes a threat. And how mercy is mistaken for weakness. Now in part 3, we face the final reality. Because every divine trial ends in only one of two ways. Submission, or separation. There is something deeply misunderstood about divine punishment. People imagine it is sudden, explosive, unfair. But the story of the she-camel exposes a different truth. God does not rush destruction. Humans rush rebellion. The punishment of Thamud did not arrive without warning. It walked slowly. Day by day, step by step. First came the sign, then came the command, then came patience, then came mercy, then came a final deadline. Only after every door of return was closed from the inside did the consequence arrive. This is a law of God. Punishment is never the beginning. It is the conclusion. Salih had already withdrawn, not in fear, but in separation. When truth leaves a society, collapse is already underway. Thamud still stood. Their houses still existed. Their mountains still surrounded them. But spiritually, they were already ruins. This is the most frightening stage of any civilization. When everything looks stable, but the foundation is gone. The scream that destroyed Thamud did not come to surprise them. It came to confirm what they had already chosen. And here is the lesson humanity refuses to learn. God does not destroy civilizations because they are powerful. He destroys them because they believe power makes them permanent. Every destroyed nation in history shared the same illusion. We are different. We are advanced. We are untouchable. Thamud believed mountains would protect them. Pharaoh believed armies would save him. Rome believed walls would endure. Modern humanity believes technology will rescue it. Different tools, same arrogance. The she-camel was not about an animal. She was about boundaries. God was saying, here is the line, do not cross it. And arrogance replied, who set this line? Every time humanity crosses a divine boundary, thinking progress has replaced accountability. Another Thamud is born. But here is the mercy still alive in this story. Among Thamud, there were believers, quiet, mocked, ignored. They were saved, not because they were powerful, but because they surrendered. This is the final separation. Faith does not always stop destruction, but it always survives it. And this brings the story directly to us. What are today's she-camels? They are not animals. They are commands. Share wealth. Respect life. Limit ego. Acknowledge accountability. Every command that challenges absolute freedom is treated as oppression. Every reminder of God is labeled outdated, and slowly, arrogance begins sharpening its knife again. But the Quran reminds us, God does not change the condition of a people until they change what is within themselves. The she-camel was not killed in a moment. She was killed by a mindset built over years. And civilizations fall the same way. Not overnight, but decision by decision. Now listen carefully. The story of Thamud is not meant to terrify you. It is meant to warn you. Fear without guidance produces despair. But warning with awareness produces salvation. And this is where Son of Adam speaks directly to you. If faith feels uncomfortable, if limits feel insulting, if submission feels like weakness, ask yourself, is this faith speaking, or is this arrogance resisting? Because arrogance always disguises itself as confidence. And faith often feels like humility before it feels like peace. Before we end, a final friendly reminder. If these stories awaken something inside you, if they force you to question power, truth, and destiny, then stay connected with Son of Adam. Subscribe, share, not to grow a channel, but to spread reminders, because reminders are mercy, and mercy always arrives before consequence. The she-camel has been slaughtered. The nation of Thamud is gone. But the trial is still alive, and every generation must answer it for themselves. Faith or arrogance?